Hello everybody and welcome to another Customizer Showcase. In today's video we're taking a look at another amazing product from Marcin over at Printformers. This is his take on the comic version of the Power Master Prime. He showed up in the comics alongside the likes of Fortress Maximus and Scorponok, and he did have a somewhat different look to him. And out of all of the products that I've had off of Marcin, I can honestly say I think this one looks to be one of the nicest so far. I was a huge fan of the comics back in the day. I used to love getting them from my local newsagents, and the kind of art style was very different to what we were used to in the cartoons, and this is how I remember Prime from the comics. This is a gorgeous looking piece. Let's get him on that turntable. Marcin's idea was to make a fully transformable version of Prime, minus the need to remove any pieces, and try and keep him as accurate to his comic book counterpart as possible. Now, to do so, he did have to make a couple of sacrifices in the alt mode, so it kind of compresses down a little bit and does differ slightly from the comic look, but the bot mode itself looks absolutely sublime, and I mean that is pretty much spot on when you compare it to the source reference material. Absolutely love him. I've had this posed alongside my Fort Max and Scorponok, and they are pride of the shelf. They look sensational. Now, like all 3D printed products, there are some areas we just need to be careful with. I'll cover those when we take a closer look, but you have to remember that this is 3D printed plastic. It's not in kind of injection molding or anything done in the factories, so there will be slightly weaker points than others, but that sculpt is just absolutely sensational. Some of the points of reference that you have to be careful with is obviously these are going to be slightly more fragile than this chunky section here. So when you rotate the guns, use the chunky section of the gun as opposed to these nozzles. And when we play with the rifles as well, again, this section here is going to be more fragile than this big chunk here. Now, unless you're a fan of the comics, this scaling may not register with yourselves, but being a huge fan, trust me, this is pretty much what we got. There was some amazing artwork in those issues. I mean, I'm talking about the Marvel UK comics. I don't know, I think they differed slightly from the US comic, but the artwork was pretty much the same. I think we were just a little bit behind, and they tied up some of the stories slightly differently, but this just brings back those nostalgia feels. This is a time when I was getting the Transformer comics and I was getting the Turtles comics on a fortnightly basis as well. I absolutely loved reading these, and they used to have like fans write in sections as well, and there was like some fan fiction sections. It was an amazing time to be a comic book collector. A little extra that he did include in the parcel were some 3D printed hands. These are work in progress, those that fit this Prime, and we also got some for the Fortress Maximus as well, some that he's just working on. These are based on Toymaker 3D's designs, and they're just currently being tweaked, and they would then go on to replace the static hands that we have. Personally, I'm actually quite happy with the static hands. At the moment, I think there's a little bit of a loose joint just on these trigger fingers, so when you bring those in, there's a little bit of extra movement on there. I mean, they do look nice, they're good looking hands, and maybe it's something that when you print out the figure, that's something you could consider, whether you want to have articulated hands or articulated fingers. I suppose it's nice if you want to get like that pointing pose, you can get the finger kind of pointing outwards. He's also done various different mods to his Scorponok mold, as well as something that he's now currently doing with the legs as well. He's doing lots. I think he's doing something with the elbow articulation to kind of chop and change it all up. So just make sure you check out the Printformers page on Facebook. You'll find out more pictures and up and coming news about all of his current projects. But this Prime is sublime. The head does just pop off, and you can switch out the eye color if you're not a fan of that red. But I mean, why wouldn't you be a fan of the red? Doesn't that look sensational? I mean, obviously as you get in closer, you can then start to see the way that it's printed. But we've got a translucent section on this chest. You straighten up those leg ports as well. Back, tie these up really nicely. Yeah, the head does just pop off, and you can slide out and change those eyes. That is just Prime from the comics. No ifs and buts. I honestly think Martin's done an incredible job of capturing his likeness. Now, while we're up close and personal, let's take a look at the articulation. The head does look around. We can go down and we can go up. We can tilt side to side. We have some inwards and outwards movement on these shoulders to let us have a little bit more of a butterfly range. The arms can go all the way up and around. They can pivot. As you can see there, look, as they move out on that ball joint, you've got some play in this hinge joint on top, which allows the arm to come up further. There's an upper bicep rotation. There is a nice bend on the elbow, and watch as it goes up again, sliding up further on that arm. And we can bring that down and then slide that back in. The hands, as previously mentioned, these are the fixed hands. They do rotate, but they are sculpted into that shape. The waist does rotate quite nicely. We have hip skirts to the front. There's a little signature underneath there. We have hip skirts to the front, allowing the legs to come all the way forwards, all the way back. The legs themselves can actually slide further forwards on the crotch hinge as well. There is an upper knee rotation. They come out to the side for a nice high kick. And we've got a bend on that knee. Came down to the feet. We've got some pivoting on the toes and a little bit of up and down motion on that foot as well. Not a huge amount on the feet, but enough to get a nice sturdy pose, but more than enough to get some kind of naturalistic walking poses and that as well. Now, to get Prime transformed up, we're just going to remove these guns from here. You need to make sure that the arms are extended outwards, like so. The chest is going to open. Just pop that up and open that section out. And where this head and this back piece is, these need to come across, this needs to come across, and this is going to slide to the back of this neck panel, so it's no longer parallel with the front, and then it's going to flip around so that this comes down. Flipping these sections out allows the head to come all the way in to that back panel like so, and then it wants to be slid back so that this chest panel is again parallel with the front of those windows. And then at this point we can then close these windows back off, tabbing those in to that panel on the neck. This top head panel rotates around. These panels on the shoulders, they are going to lift up, and again those are going to rotate around, so they now face downwards on the back of those arms. Bend these hinges upwards on both sides, straighten out these panels here, and looking on the underside of the arms, these are going to slide outwards and just tab in under that arm. From this kind of zombie looking pose, you want to rotate the arms around so that the guns are now pointing forwards and the arms have come around to the back. From the above view, this is going to rotate so that we have the top of the fist pointing upwards, and then this is going to bend up on a 90-degree angle so that the fist is now pointing outwards. At this secondary hinge here, this is going to rotate inwards like so, and then we have these sliding panels that are going to slide upwards and cover off the majority of that fist. And then using this extended hinge, these are going to swing around and then come in and compress. We're going to do that with both arms and then allow them to tab in at these points so that we currently have something that looks like this. We can then extend these pieces down and extend this piece down. So that's going to form the roof panels. There's a retaining hinge just below the knee. You want to just give this a little tug, which lifts that up and unlocks these legs. This section here can now come out, and you see that they're now flopping around, and this section here is going to come out. We're going to open up these legs so we've got some room to work with, and this is going to come out, and this one's going to come out. Then bring this piece here upwards and then just gripping onto the wheel guard. That allows the wheels to slide all the way down. I love how that did that. It just went over that pinned hinge and just slid down there wonderfully. Bring this hinge up so we can see what we're doing. We have this hinge on the inside of the leg that's going to extend, and this small tab here that's going to rotate like so. And now we can bring these legs back in, and now that we've extended this hinge, these should, he says, if I can straighten up the legs, these are just going to push and tab in, securing into position. Look on the inside here, there's this extending piece that lifts up, allowing this piece to rock, and that's going to come in, and as you can see, once it's in position, it naturally slides down to where we need it. From there we can then compress the legs down as well. There, it's going to slide nicely on those runners. And finally then just pull these up, and using that hinge at the back there, these are just going to push and tab into place. Here we have it fully transformed up into its truck mode with no parts forming whatsoever. Absolutely love that. Yes, it's 3D printed, so yes, it's going to need a few tweaks here and there. My pin came a little bit loose while I was transforming it, but it literally just slid right on back in there. But look at that, what a glorious little alt mode for Prime. The cab itself can slide on those legs to give it a longer trailer if you see fit. It actually really reminds me of the classics Inferno, that's kind of that sort of size. Do you remember that? But yeah, this definitely works. It's a really nice looking piece. Lovely homage to the original source material, Martin. Honestly, can't praise this enough. You've done a remarkable job at keeping everything together and keeping those vibes. Yes, the alt mode has sacrificed slightly. You've kind of compacted it to make everything work, but it does exactly that. It does work. We've still got the complete truck mode front there. There's no faux front, which is something I really like. I don't like what they did with some of the Primes or some of the hot rods in the past, where the front of him is faux. I'd like it to actually be the front of the car, all one kind of piece, which can just chop and change. Same with what Fans Toys did with Cup. I didn't like the fact that the front of his truck for him was fake and you had to kind of move things around. But yeah, this is a really nice piece, bearing in mind that it is 3D printed. So you have to then take your time with it, be a little bit more careful than if it was, say, a retail release. But overall, really happy with the outcome. give you an idea of how he scales, here he is alongside MP10. So that's not too bad. A little bit longer, MP10 is. It's a little bit more stout, but they still definitely look good alongside one another there. What a fun little piece. So there we have it, the Printformers Marvel Comics inspired Power Master Prime. Lovely little piece. Bot mode especially is chef's kiss. Absolutely sublime. Ticks all of those boxes. Hope you found this Customizer Showcase useful. If you have, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, share, and of course subscribe. I will include a link in the description below where you can find more works from Printformers. I'll include a video playlist at the end of this video whilst the credits are playing, which will take you through to the Printformers playlist. And until next time, for myself and the rest of the Collectibles household, thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.